Hello Megatripper, thank you for joining me once again on another little mini trip on Megatrip. This time we're going to have a little look at Bermondsey. Bermondsey is in southeast London, so another London-based mini trip. Bermondsey is actually my hometown, if you like. It's where I live most of the time when I'm not gallivanting around the globe. The thing about London is it's really lots of little towns that eventually kind of merge together to form the mammoth metropolis that it is today. And this is one of those. So Bermondsey is in southeast London. It's bordered on the north by the famous Thames River. On the south, it's bordered by the famous Old Kent Road. And on the west by Borough High Street, where you'll find Borough Market. But on the east side, it's bordered by Southwark Park. And that's where we're going to start this little mini trip on Megatrip today, in the beautiful Southwark Park. So Megatripper, you might have noticed if you're watching this when it's released or near when it's released that I appear to be wearing cold weather clothing, a woolly hat, a jacket. So maybe you're thinking that I pre-recorded this earlier in the year, but no, I did not. It is in fact May. It's springtime here, but this is London. So if you do visit, be wary, the weather's completely changeable. Sometimes it's warm, sometimes it's cold, particularly in those kind of shoulder seasons of spring and autumn. But it's still worth coming down for a little look at Southwark Park and all that's here, including things like the cafe we're going to see in a second and some of the locals feeding the birds. So just like many of the parks in London, if you do come here and you get a little bit cold or it gets a little bit rainy, there's always somewhere to shelter. And the instance of Southwark Park, there's a lovely little cafe right behind me with an information centre, and you can see behind me there lots of people sheltering from the inclement weather, having a nice warming coffee or a cup of tea, or maybe even a cheeky beer or wine later in the day. So Southwark Park then. Why not Bermondsey Park, I hear you cry, as we're looking at Bermondsey today. Well, in reality Southwark Park is actually in Rotherhithe. Like I said, that's the eastern border of Bermondsey, but I thought it's a nice place to start. The park itself was actually founded in 1869, so it's pretty damn old. And like most parks in London, it's more than just a green space. London's quite a built-up city, Bermondsey's quite a central area, and many people here really don't have any green space or outside space or social space to meet in, other than perhaps pubs and restaurants. So parks like this, they perform multiple functions, and that means you can actually find loads to do here. So yes, there's green spaces covering a whopping 63 acres for a central city park. But there's also things like the bowling green, a boating lake and duck pond, football pitches, an outdoor gym, tennis courts, table tennis courts, a nice little cafe, and even an art gallery. And Bermondsey is a very, very arty kind of place. But really, the central feature of Southwark Park, if you like, is in reality probably the bandstand. And the bandstand was initially actually built in a park in South Kensington, back in the kind of mid-late 19th century, before being moved here. And today that bandstand, particularly in the summer, does form the heart of the park. And it's where you'll find things like music festivals, food festivals, where people meet, sit around, hang out, when you do get that good weather, when the sun finally turns up here in London. Maybe it won't this year, who knows. So it's very much kind of, like I said, the centre of activity here. And also on a Saturday, the meeting place for the Southwark Park Run. Here in Bermondsey, just like in many areas in London, some of the most impressive buildings are actually churches. And in Bermondsey, we have St James's Church. It was built and consecrated in 1829 as a result of the Church Building Acts, architected by a guy called James Savage. And St James's Church here in Bermondsey actually lends its name to lots of things in the local area, such as St James's Road, and probably my favourite, the St James's Public House, where you can get beer here. Anyway, let's have a look at this beautiful Grade 2 listed building. Thank you so much, Megatrip Watcher. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. But please, if you haven't already, do like and subscribe. You can find the thumbs up logo and the little bell just at the bottom of the video here. It really does make so much difference to help me grow the channel. So like I said, take a minute, like, subscribe, and enjoy the rest of this video here on Megatrip, this mini trip in Bermondsey. Time for a little Megatrip top tip. If you do come here to Bermondsey and visit St James's Church, this beautiful Grade 2 listed building, and you get a little bit thirsty or a little bit hungry, right next door to it is one of the best pubs in the area, one of my favourites, that's well worth a visit. So if you're here and you fancy a little refreshment, why not check out the beautiful Gorian pub. Today I'm going to be walking around Bermondsey. I think I said at the start of this video that London is based of lots of towns and villages that merged and became the one big city of London. But don't underestimate the size of London, and therefore the size of the kind of constituent parts just like Bermondsey. I'm going to be walking around. Another really good way to get around if walking isn't your thing is by using Lime bikes or e-scooters. You can find them all over the streets of Bermondsey, and perhaps more importantly, you can easily rent them through an app you may already have on your phone, such as Uber, but there's also Free Now and Bolt, ubiquitous here in London. So if you don't have those apps, I suggest you download them before you come, and you can grab a little e-bike to give you some pedal assist, or even an electric scooter to help get you around the area of Bermondsey, or actually London as a whole, particularly down here on the south bank of the River Thames. There's loads of interesting road signs here in Bermondsey which really speak to the history, things like Rope Walk, Mill Street, Tanner Street, St James's Road. But this one is probably my favourite, mainly due to its positioning, I'm guessing, to stop the graffiti. Good old Dockhead. Bermondsey has historically been an area of trade, reliant on things like the naval industry, rope making, tanning, sugar, other such import and export related businesses over the years. One of the best things to do when you come to Bermondsey, as I said, it's bordered on the north by the beautiful River Thames that you can see behind me, leading down to Canary Wharf and the East Docklands. But one of the best things to do is come down and have yourself something to eat and drink on Butler's Wharf. There's a set of beautiful restaurants and bars overlooking the River Thames. The reason to do that though isn't just the river, it isn't just the food and the drink, it's also the view of the famous Tower Bridge, standing prominent with the City of London right behind it. Maybe we'll do a mini trip to the City of London one day. But anyway, let's go have a little look at Tower Bridge, which I think we're lucky today is just opening to let a boat through. Tower Bridge that you can see right here, opening to let a boat through, was built between 1886 and 1894. It was designed by Horace Jones and engineered by John Wolfe Barry, with help from Henry Mark Brunel. The bridge was really constructed to give better access to the east of London, to the Docklands, which really expanded its commercial potential in the 19th century. And if you think of London, you probably think of Tower Bridge right here at the beautiful north edge of Bermondsey. How lucky we are today to see the bridge open. We couldn't come to Bermondsey, or to this bit of Bermondsey, without checking out one of my favourite streets in London, Shad Thames, right next to the historic London Bridge. Right next to Tower Bridge is the historic Shad Thames, which in the 19th century was the biggest warehouse complex here in London. And you can see that in the architecture and the structures and the buildings all around this bit of southeast London. The first record of the name of Shad Thames was in John Rock's 1747 map of London. The name itself is thought to be a corruption of St John at Thames, a reference to St John's Church, which once stood southwest of the street. But enough warehouses. Let's go check out the other side of Bermondsey, the eating, the drinking, the art and the culture. Let's go have a little bit of a look at that side of historic Bermondsey here in London. Another Dom Megatrip recommendation: if you're down in the Shad Thames area, particularly on a Sunday, if you're a bit hungry, a great place for one of the best Sunday roasts in London is the Dean Swift, just off Shad Thames. If you mention Bermondsey to a Londoner, they probably don't think of things like the docks, the churches, Tower Bridge, the history, the parks. That's not what normally springs to mind. It'll either be the football club, Millwall, that we mentioned earlier, or, much more likely, they'll think of Bermondsey Street. Now, Bermondsey Street really has revolutionised Bermondsey as a place to go. This area was historically, like I said, Docklands. It was very working class, definitely perceived as kind of down at heel, if you like. And probably about 20 years ago, Bermondsey Street started to emerge as a centre for culture, particularly food and drink. And it has some of the best restaurants, bars and eateries in all of London. We can have a look at that now. It also, more and more, is becoming part of a cultural centre here in southeast London. So let's go and check out the famous Bermondsey Street. Well, here we are, Mega Trippers. As promised, we have arrived on the famous Bermondsey Street. Bermondsey Street is the culinary centre of Bermondsey. It's exactly where you come, particularly for the high-end, fancier, more reputable restaurants. There are other elements to the Bermondsey food scene which we will explore. But anyway, now we're here, I'm going to give you my guide, in no particular order, other than the order they are in on the street, to my top 5 places to eat and drink here on Bermondsey Street. So number 1, my places to eat and drink here on Bermondsey Street is the Woolpack Pub. Come along, grab a pint, it's got a great garden, good food, everything you can want from a traditional London boozer, but here on the buzzy Bermondsey Street. Let's have a closer look. 2 on my list, if you want to upgrade from just drinks and perhaps you want a little snack, is the Jose Tapas Bar, one of 2 locations the famous chef Jose Pizarro has here on Bermondsey Street. We'll check out the other one in a minute, but that's number 2 for you. Okay, so we've done drinks, some nibbles, and now it's time to upgrade to the main course. I'm not gonna lie, number 3 is genuinely my favourite restaurant in all of London, the wonderful Casse Croûte that you'll find here on the corner of Bermondsey Street and Tanner Street. It's a fantastic French brasserie here in Bermondsey. Free starters, free mains, free desserts every single day. Traditional French style. Gonna say it's probably at least 50% butter, but that's what makes it so good. If you're getting full though, when you're trying to make the most of eating and drinking, and you've just got a day here in Bermondsey, my top tip for Casse Croûte is don't go and have a sit-down meal. Go and sit at the bar, have a bottle of champagne, and some of their fantastic charcuterie they cut right in front of you. Things like duck saucisson, lovely French cheeses. It really is an absolute treat. One of my top tips of things to do. Get it in ya. So number 4 on my list of top places to eat here on Bermondsey Street is Hakata, an amazing ramen bar, got some great Japanese style snacks. One tip from me though, no reservations, so you may have to queue. People tend to move through quite quickly. I'd also recommend that you check out their bao buns and their cocktails. It's a great buzzy place to meet, greet, eat and drink. And then number 5, my last place on this whistle-stop tour of the best places to eat and drink on Bermondsey Street has to be Pizarro, right behind me here. The very first restaurant by Jose Pizarro, the famous Spanish chef, the self-proclaimed godfather of Spanish food in the UK. This was his very first restaurant here on Bermondsey Street. Definitely on the spenny side, but for a special occasion, if you want a real treat, come and check out Pizarro. It is mwah! Well, that's the end of my whistle-stop culinary tour, things to eat and drink here on the famous Bermondsey Street in southeast London. But the food and drink culture here is multifaceted, so that's not all we'll be looking at. Normally, if people come to London and come to southeast London and London themselves, they think about this area, they think about near London Bridge, which is where we are now, and near the famous Tower Bridge. They tend to think of Borough Market. But Borough Market's not the only option. If you're a local, you might just go somewhere else. And that's where I'm going to show you in a minute. But just to finish off this section on Bermondsey Street, it's not all about food and drink. It's also about art and culture as well. So check out these couple of options to add to your visit here in Bermondsey, on Bermondsey Street in southeast London. Bermondsey Street is located in what was once the leather district, the tanning district. So you'll see lots of street signs such as Tanner Street, Leather Market, and that was very much the industry here. But now those buildings, that old industry has been revolutionised into a culinary delight here in the heart of southeast London. But it's also a cultural place. One of the things you can find down here on Bermondsey Street is the Fashion and Textile Museum. When it comes to art and culture here on Bermondsey Street, it's not just the Textile Museum that you have down the north end of Bermondsey Street. But if you want something a bit more contemporary, a bit more modern, then there's a fantastic and very famous White Cube Modern Art Gallery. Here we go. Check it out. Very modern, very stark from the outside. But I promise you it's worth a visit. Some of the best modern art here in southeast London you can come and enjoy. Just another reason to come and visit down here in Bermondsey. And finally, thinking about the cultural side of Bermondsey and Bermondsey Street, you cannot forget Bermondsey Square. It's down at the south end of Bermondsey Street, and the reason I recommend you come here is really on a specific day. If you come here on a Friday afternoon, you can find one of the oldest antiques markets in London. right here in the now modernised Bermondsey Square. Bermondsey is boundaried to the north by the River Thames, to the east by Southwark Park, to the south by the Old Kent Road, and to the west by Borough High Street. And right in that northwest corner is one of the most iconic landmarks of this piece of London, the famous Shard standing above London Bridge Station. It's definitely changed the skyline while I've been here. Okay, Megatrip fans. In earlier sections of this video, you'd have heard me talk about Bermondsey's history, being an area of warehouses, really supporting the naval and merchant naval industries. And part of that used to be making ropes. And they used to have these things called rope walks, which were long streets really, where you could construct ropes at a serious length. And one of those is still around today. It's called Rope Walk. And on Rope Walk, you will find one of the other sides of the Bermondsey food culture, the lesser known about market in this area, the Maltby Street Market. So now let's go and check out what it's all about. Down here you'll find lots of lovely little bars, little food stalls. It is very much a food market where you can come inside, enjoy a nice drink, a break from the cold, or what I'm going to do is go and have a look at some of the stalls in this buzzy area of Bermondsey in southeast London. Lots of street art, graffiti, lots of history, of course absolutely delicious food and drink. Join me. See a massive variety of food stalls here from around the world. I mean, just look at this. I wish you could smell what I'm smelling because it's absolutely delicious. Get yourself down here, try some of the food, have a little drink. Why not? Not just as savoury, also amazing sweet treats. Right here at this vegan bakery stall. If you want to take something home to make yourself, if you're inspired. It's Taylor's of Maltby Street. Pick up your local produce. I mean, those chanterelles have me thinking about my dinner already. Food, of course, is no good without a nice glass of wine. So why not come down to the wine bar down here too? Oysters were once a cheap food for those living on the banks of the Thames, but they've now been upgraded. Best served with champagne and caviar, if you fancy treating yourself. Don't have to eat outside in the cold. You can dive into a little establishment like this, bring your food in, get yourself a glass of wine, enjoy the best of Bermondsey. So you can see there's lots of different options here. Like the Latin bros there. From oysters and champagne to burgers to Latin food to Armenian food. You can get whatever you want down here at Maltby Street Market. She's actually growing every single year. Every time I come here, there seems to be something new and exciting, which is great for a resident like me. There is one other side of Bermondsey and the Bermondsey food and drink culture, which I haven't talked about today, and I promise I will do another video on. But on the other side of these railway tracks behind me is one end of what's called the Bermondsey Beer Mile. The Bermondsey Beer Mile is over a mile of tap houses and local breweries serving a variety of different local brews. We will do another video on that if you want me to. If you do, leave a comment in the comments, let me know. And maybe next time when we come to Bermondsey, we'll look at the Bermondsey Beer Mile. Thank you, Megatrip watcher. Hopefully you've enjoyed the content today, and if you like what you've seen in this video, please make sure that you like and most importantly subscribe. Tick that little bell icon down there and that will get you subscribed for more Megatrip videos as they come out. And I promise you are not going to want to miss my Megatrip coming up this summer, just a few weeks now. Anyway, join me next time here on Megatrip. Cheers.